to go live on Facebook. So here, I just wanted to jump on today and I wanted to talk about delegation. And for those that don't know me, I'm Leslie Leondas, owner of Leondas CPA. And I know that there is so many accountants, bookkeepers, and pros struggling with how to effectively delegate so it's not like a boomerang that just comes like right back. So if you're joining me live or on the replay, let me know where you're joining from. Because that's how I pick out travel places as well. Is like, oh, that sounds like a cool place. So let me know what you're doing, and if you have questions on delegation, make sure you drop them in the comments because I'm always looking for new trainings to do to be more effective to help you get where you need to go with what you're trying to accomplish. So make sure you let me know any comments that you have, any questions that you have. So I'm just going to jump right in on delegation. So when I first took over my the accounting firm, I was like, how do I move stuff from my desk to somebody else's quickly without it coming back? And there was always pieces of information that would always come back. And I want to talk about a couple things that I've been actually working on this year in our office is moving all the year-end stuff where it's not dependent on me at all. And I'm talking all the depreciation entries. I'm talking about removing fixed assets from the accounting system and removing them from the tax program, closing out distributions, closing out retained earnings, and all the year-end tasks that come at year-end. So for a few years, we've been working on processes and how to do this in our task management system where they were not dependent on any one person, where the bookkeeper could actually do them. And you notice I said for a couple years we've been working on this because it was that cycle of coming right back to me that kept getting me, is because there was pieces of information that I had that nobody else had. So I wanted to talk about that today, like what that looked like. And so we've been working on that for several years. And what we did is we started breaking it down. So that way we could actually try to figure out, okay, who is the best person to do this? What pieces of information do they need? What permission do they need? And then they need to own the outcome of the actual task. Because what's happened in prior years is I would go to do, they would go and do the tax return, but then depreciation wasn't booked. So then they would have to book depreciation, or assets were either sold or gone. And so then they would go back and forth. And so therefore it didn't streamline the process. So this was our first full year of following the process of where we sent the depreciation schedule to the client in early January. So that way they actually had time to actually look at the depreciation schedule. Do we have it or do we not have it? We have gotten all the depreciation schedules back and all the year-end adjustments completed for all of our bookkeeping clients. So that's where I want to talk about, because I've heard so many of my accountants saying, well, those all end with me. But I'm here to tell you they don't. So how to effective, and you can use this concept on anything you're trying to delegate. And you have to make sure that they have all the information. And a lot of times they don't have all the information. So in my example that I just used, depreciation methods, they were missing some of the depreciation methods. So I had to do videos on, hey, what type of depreciation method should each thing be? And I didn't want to give them a big complex thing from the IRS because then they're looking at it like, I don't know what this means. So, because then I tried that, and then they would look at it and they're like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. So therefore to me, they didn't have all the information. So I did a video to talk them through what constitutes to belong on that schedule. So this way, it is not me having to make every decision. They're making the decision. They're making the decision on whether to take Section 179 or our bonus, but they have guardrails around what to do if they're at a huge loss. this is what you do. If they're at a huge profit, this is what you do. If they're in the middle, this is what you do. So they have the guardrails around it. So that way they can see where that way they're making the decision and owning the outcome. If they need to talk to the client about it, they're able to talk to the client about it. So this way it doesn't get hung up with me. And that is what happens so many years ago, is everything kept getting bottlenecked with me. And so I was still doing year-end adjustments in April, May. And so that was affecting financial statements for 4 or 5 months. So we moved these tasks way up into the year, so they were done right at year end all together. So that way the bookkeeper wasn't having to remember a year, several months later, she was doing a bunch of them together. So that way she could effectively do it. And then the tax returns are ready to go, especially for the S corps. Now they're all ready to go. They're ready to be prepped. And that is the reason we do just taxes for our own bookkeeping clients, because it makes it so much easier. So back to delegation. So, and yes, it's not, sometimes this is painful. I'm not going to say it's not, because I kept having to redo videos and redo videos and redo videos, but I had to stay in the mindset, I never want to do these tasks again, ever. So I just kept updating the processes and updating the videos until they worked, because there would be little pieces that I would not give them and that they were missing. And so that was what it made it come circle back. So, and every year we've tweaked these to make them a little bit better, make them more efficient, because used to we wouldn't send them out till later on in the year, but then the clients weren't as focused as they were in January. And so this was our first year of sending them out this early. And so it was so helpful getting them back, because in Texas, we also have property renditions that we have to do. So now the property renditions are also ready to go, because we're not waiting on depreciation schedules. We're not waiting on assets to be added. It's all done. And I didn't do any of it. All I did was tweak processes. And so then I have now the tax returns also ready to go. Those processes are done. So those are ready to go to prep. So now I have a bookkeeper that has transitioned over into tax, because she understands the bookkeeping process, and now she's testing tax processes. So it's made more depth in the organization by doing this. Plus, she's able to tell me, hey, I saw that this was like meals were 100% the year before. Do I need to tweak the process? And she said, because the IRS says now it's 50. So she went and did that on her own. So she owned the outcome of the process. So that way she knew that any other return that fell under that she wasn't going to have to look it up each time. She tweaked the process. That's the power of delegation. So not only did I delegate the task, I delegated doing the process, unless there's pieces of information that they don't have. So then that way they can own the outcome of their task. So does that make team members more empowered? Yes, it does, because now they're asking for hey, I want to learn more about this. So that's the power of delegation, because whenever you have a team member that is in the same role year after year after year, they hit burnout, or they hit what they call in clockwork the top of the S curve. So if you think of an S like this, and as people learn, they go up that S. And so they'll get here, and that's where they start mastering their jobs. And then they continue up the S until they're right here where they've completely mastered that job. A lot of times that's where they're ready to move on to another S curve and another type of position. And I have seen this in my own team, where they've started out in this job and they've mastered it, but they're ready to move on to another S curve. But if I would have just kept them in that other job, and this is where delegation falls into as well, because that way they can move into another S curve without you being the answer to everything, because as your processes are documented out and as your task management system tells them what to do, it doesn't have to come to you. So that's power in delegation, because you don't have to be the one to do all this, because we started a business for a reason, and it was because we were good at something, and we were good at tax, or we wanted our own accounting business. But as a business owner, it holds us back when we stay too deep in the doing of the work. We can't actually keep going, because we're going to hit this plateau right here that says we can't go any further. And this is usually around between 200 and 250,000 in annual revenue is kind of where I kind of see it, is where you hit this brick ceiling, because you literally can't do on anymore. Because if you're doing all the work, you can't market, you can't sell. And then where a lot of people get hung up is they can't market, so they rely on referrals. But how do you know when those referrals are coming in? And so then you're leaving your business to something else. They're afraid to market because they can't sell, because they can't deliver. And so that's where this cycle just starts getting worse. And it's usually around that amount of money for revenue. And then it just gets worse from there. And then you hit another plateau, and then another plateau as you scale even more. So if you're struggling with delegation and want to learn more about how we can support you in growing your team, growing your leadership skills, getting you out of the weeds, comment weeds below, and we will reach out to you to see, hey, where are you at? What do you need help with? And see where you want to go. Because a lot of times that's where we fail to think about, is where we actually want to go, not only professionally, but personally. And a lot of my clients, I make them dig deep into this, because this way it keeps people focused. If they say, this is what I want to do in 10 years. And so it's about making the steps up until that point, but it's all about you personally, what you want. So for me, I didn't want to work 60, 70 hours anymore. I don't even want to work 40 hours anymore. But I want to work in stuff that I actually love to do, where I'm not so deep in the weeds. So if this sounds like something that you're ready to do, like I said, comment weeds below and I'll reach out to you. So I hope this training on delegation was helpful. And if you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comments. Thank you, and have a fantastic rest of your day.